My fiancé said, "Let's take a short break to clear our heads." I said, "Sounds fair." That night, I sent screenshots of her break activities to her dad and requested a refund from the wedding planner. 2 days later, she showed up at my door crying, only to see a "for sale" sign in the yard. I should have seen it coming. The signs were there. Mysterious text messages that made her smile, suddenly going out with the girls more often, guarding her phone like it contained nuclear launch codes. Classic stuff, really. But when you're in love, planning a wedding and building a life with someone, you tend to explain away these things. She's just stressed about wedding plans. She's entitled to her privacy. I'm being paranoid, until you can't ignore it anymore. Katie and I had been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. We met through mutual friends at a backyard barbecue, and it was one of those rare instant connections. She was smart, funny, beautiful, the whole package. We moved in together after a year, bought a house 6 months after that, and got engaged on our 2nd anniversary. The house was technically mine. I'd put down the entire down payment from an inheritance I received when my grandparents passed, but Katie helped with the mortgage payments and utilities. We'd planned to add her to the deed after we got married, just 3 months away. Our wedding plans were coming along nicely. We'd booked a venue, hired a well-known local wedding planner, and put deposits down on most services. All told, we'd already spent about $15,000, with another $10,000 to go. Most of that came from my savings, though Katie had contributed about $5,000. Everything seemed perfect, until about 2 weeks ago. We were having dinner at home when Katie put down her fork and looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Ben, I've been thinking," she said, her voice oddly calm. "Maybe we need to take a short break." I nearly choked on my chicken parmesan. "A break? What do you mean?" "Just a little time apart to clear our heads before the wedding. Make sure we're making the right decision," she explained, as if suggesting we try a new restaurant. "Is something wrong? Are you having doubts?" I asked, my stomach tightening. No, she insisted. "I just think some space would be healthy. The wedding planning is stressful, and I feel like we're both a bit on edge lately." I hadn't felt on edge at all, but I nodded slowly, trying to process what was happening. "How long of a break are we talking about?" I asked. "Just a week or 2. I can stay at my sister's place." "And what exactly happens during this break? Are we still exclusive, or?" She hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but long enough. "Of course we're exclusive, Ben. This isn't about seeing other people. It's about getting perspective." I didn't believe her, not fully, but I also didn't want to come across as controlling or insecure. So I swallowed my doubts and said, "Sounds fair, if you think that's what you need." Katie looked relieved, almost suspiciously so. She hugged me, promised we'd be stronger for it, and went upstairs to pack a bag. She was gone within the hour, leaving me alone in our house with a sinking feeling in my gut. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not sorry either. After a restless night, I decided to check our shared iPad. Katie often used it to browse wedding stuff, and it was synced to her iCloud account. I'd never snooped before, never felt the need to. But something about this sudden break didn't sit right. It took less than 5 minutes to confirm my worst suspicions. There in her messages was a conversation with someone saved as Jay Work. Except Jay wasn't a coworker. Jay was Jake, her ex-boyfriend from college who had recently moved back to town. The messages went back 2 months and left nothing to the imagination. "Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. Last night was amazing. Once this wedding is called off, we can finally be together." My hands shook as I scrolled through message after message, each one driving the knife deeper. There were photos too, intimate ones, exchanged both ways. The most recent message was from yesterday. "He bought the break idea. Told you it would work." I felt sick, but also strangely calm. The uncertainty was gone. Now I knew exactly where we stood. I took screenshots of everything incriminating. The messages, the photos, the plans they'd made. Then I sat down and made my own plan. First, I called our wedding planner and explained the situation. She was sympathetic and agreed to help me through the cancellation process. Since I was listed as the primary contact on most of the vendor contracts and had made the majority of the payments from my personal account, I had the authority to initiate cancellations. For the few vendors where Katie was the primary contact, the wedding planner offered to reach out to her directly if needed. But most were understanding of the circumstances. The planner estimated we'd get back about $8,000 of the $15,000 we'd spent, though some deposits were non-refundable. Next, I called my bank and discussed the situation with a personal banker. Since I was the primary account holder on our joint checking account, I had the option to remove Katie as an authorized user. The banker advised me on the proper way to handle this separation of finances, and I followed their guidance, transferring Katie's exact contribution, $5,000, to a separate account I set up to give back to her. Everything was done by the book, following the account agreement we'd both signed. Then I contacted a real estate agent. The housing market in our area was hot, and he assured me we could list the house immediately. He explained that while we might receive offers quickly, the closing process would still take the standard 30 to 45 days, which gave me plenty of time to find a new place and plan my move. Finally, I did something that might seem petty, but felt necessary. I sent screenshots of Katie's conversations with Jake to her father. This requires some explanation. Katie's dad, Richard, had always been good to me. He was old-fashioned, believed strongly in honesty and commitment, and had welcomed me into their family with open arms. He'd also contributed $10,000 toward our wedding costs, money I knew Katie and Jake were planning to use for a trip to Hawaii after our wedding was called off. Yes, they'd discussed this in their messages. Richard deserved to know what his daughter was doing and what his money was funding. I didn't send the explicit photos, just the messages about their affair and their plans regarding the wedding. All of this took about 6 hours. By evening, my plan was in motion. The real estate agent had rushed over, taken photos of the house, and placed a for sale sign in the front yard. The wedding planner had started the refund process. Richard had read my message but hadn't responded. Then I turned off my phone, poured myself a bourbon, and waited. 2 days passed. I took time off work, citing a family emergency, and focused on packing up my belongings. The house had been officially listed, and we'd already received 3 showing requests and 1 verbal offer above asking price. Around 6 p.m. on the second day, the doorbell rang. I knew who it would be before I opened the door. Katie stood on the porch, eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked past me at the boxes stacked in the hallway, then at the for sale sign prominently displayed in the front yard. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "I think you know," I replied calmly. "The break is working great for me too. I'm getting perspective on what I really want in life, and it isn't someone who cheats with her ex." Her face paled. "You went through my phone?" "iPad actually. You left it logged in. Careless. Those messages aren't what you think." "Please don't," I interrupted. "I read everything, Katie, you and Jake, the plans to call off the wedding after taking my money and your dad's. It's all there." She switched tactics, tears flowing freely now. "I made a mistake, Ben, a terrible mistake, but we can work through this. I love you, not him." "That's not what you told him 2 days ago, or the day before that, or when you were in his bed instead of ours." "My dad called me," she said, her voice small. "He's furious. He said I'm just like my mother." Her parents had divorced years ago after her mother's affair. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I didn't send anything that wasn't true," I said. "You had no right. Your dad gave us $10,000 for a wedding you were planning to cancel. He deserved to know." She looked around desperately, seeming to fully process the for sale sign for the first time. "You're selling our house? You can't do that without me." "It's not our house, Katie. My name is the only one on the deed. Remember? We were going to add yours after the wedding." Her face crumpled as reality set in. "Where am I supposed to go? Jake kicked me out of his place when he realized I was serious about the break, and I couldn't stay with my sister like I told you because she's out of town. I've been hotel hopping for the past 2 days." "Jake's place seems like the obvious choice. You've certainly spent enough time there already." "He broke things off when everything came out," she admitted, looking at the ground. "Said it was too complicated now." "Of course he did. Classic Jake, from what I'd heard about him." "That sounds like a you problem," I said, surprising myself with my coldness. But after reading those messages, seeing how they had laughed about deceiving me, I couldn't find much sympathy. "Can I at least come in and get my things?" she asked. "I've packed most of your stuff," I told her. "It's in boxes in the garage, and there's an envelope with a check for your $5,000 contribution to the wedding. The rest is being refunded." "You're really doing this? Throwing away 3 years over one mistake?" "It wasn't one mistake, Katie. It was dozens of decisions, day after day, to lie to me, to plan a future with me while sleeping with someone else, to strategize how to take my money before leaving." She had no response to that. "I'll help you load your boxes into your car," I offered. Not out of kindness, but because I wanted this over with. It took 4 trips to get everything into her small sedan. We worked in silence, the weight of what had happened hanging between us. As she prepared to leave, she tried one last time. "I really did love you, Ben." I looked at her, this woman I'd planned to spend my life with, and felt nothing but a dull ache. "No, you didn't. But that's okay. I'll find someone who does." She drove away in tears, and I went back inside to my half-empty house. The next few weeks were a blur. The house received multiple offers, and we accepted one that was $50,000 above asking price. As expected, the closing process took about 40 days, giving me plenty of time to find a smaller place closer to my job and plan my move carefully. The substantial profit from the house sale made it possible for me to return Richard's $10,000 and cover Katie's $5,000 contribution, even after accounting for the non-refundable wedding deposits. "You're a good man, Ben," Richard told me when we met for lunch. "I'm sorry my daughter couldn't see that." Through mutual friends, I heard that Katie had moved in with a college roommate and was taking time for herself. Our social circle had largely split along expected lines. Her closest friends stood by her, while others distanced themselves from both of us, uncomfortable with taking sides. A few friends I'd known before Katie reached out to offer support, which meant more than I expected. As for me, I'm doing okay. Not great, not terrible, just okay. Some days I miss the life I thought I had, the future I'd planned. Other days I feel grateful for escaping a marriage that would have been built on lies. The strangest part was how quickly I acted once I knew the truth. No long nights of soul-searching, no desperate attempts to save the relationship, just a clear, cold certainty that it was over, followed by practical steps to disentangle our lives. Maybe some part of me had been preparing for this all along. Friends have asked if I regret sending those screenshots to her father. I don't. Richard had been about to take out a loan to contribute even more to the wedding, believing he was helping his daughter start a happy marriage. He deserved the truth, painful as it was. 6 months have passed now. I'm dating again, cautiously. The new house feels like home. I've picked up old hobbies I'd neglected and reconnected with friends I hadn't seen enough of during my relationship with Katie. Last week, I ran into her at a coffee shop. It was awkward, as you'd expect, but civil. She looks thinner, older somehow. She told me she's in therapy, learning why she sabotages good things in her life. I wished her well, and I meant it. Sometimes I wonder if I could have done things differently, been more understanding, tried to work through the betrayal. But then I remember those messages, the calculated deception, the complete lack of respect for me and our relationship. You can forgive a mistake, a moment of weakness, a lapse in judgment. These are human failings we can all understand. But you can't build a life with someone who sees you as an obstacle to their happiness, a stepping stone to be used and discarded. Some breaks can't be fixed. Some perspectives once gained can't be unseen. And some endings, painful as they are exactly what we need to find a new beginning. Update. 1 year later. It's been exactly 1 year since I found those messages. And since several people have asked for an update, here it is. The new house has become a true home. It's smaller than the one Katie and I shared, but it's entirely mine, filled with things that bring me joy rather than reminders of betrayal. I've painted every room, built a deck in the backyard, and adopted a dog, a goofy rescue mutt named Cooper, who's currently snoring on the couch beside me. Career-wise, things have taken an unexpected but welcome turn. The company I work for was acquired by a larger firm, and in the restructuring, I was offered a promotion. I'm now managing a team of 6 and earning significantly more than before. The timing couldn't have been better, as it gave me a new focus during a difficult period. As for Katie, I've kept my distance, but news travels in our social circle. After her brief stay with her college roommate, she moved back in with her parents, something I know must have been humbling for her, especially given her father's awareness of the situation. From what I've heard, she's still in therapy and has remained single, turning down Jake when he eventually circled back. Shocking, I know. Richard and I still meet for lunch occasionally. He's become something of a mentor to me, which might seem strange given the circumstances, but he's a wise man who's been through his own share of betrayals. We can't control what happens to us, he told me recently, only how we respond. Coming from anyone else, it might have sounded like a greeting card platitude, but from him, it carried weight. The wedding planner who helped me cancel everything has become a friend. She recently asked if I'd be comfortable with her using my story, anonymously, in a talk she gives to industry professionals about handling cancellations with grace. I agreed, somewhat amused that my personal disaster might help others navigate similar situations. Dating has been interesting. I was upfront about my experience with the first few women I went out with, but I quickly realized I was leading with my trauma, defining myself by what had happened rather than who I am. Now I save that conversation for when there's actual potential for a relationship. Speaking of which, I've been seeing someone for about 3 months now. Ellie is nothing like Katie. She's straightforward, genuine, and remarkably secure in herself. She knows my history, but doesn't treat me like I'm damaged goods. We're taking things slowly, both of us cautious for our own reasons. The most unexpected development came last month when I received a letter from Katie. Not an email or text, an actual handwritten letter. She apologized, not with excuses or pleas for reconciliation, but with a simple acknowledgement of the pain she'd caused and the lessons she'd learned. I didn't understand then what real love looks like. She wrote, "I think maybe I'm beginning to now." I didn't respond, not out of spite, but because there was nothing more to say. Her apology was for her healing, not mine, and that's okay. Looking back on that day, finding the messages, making my plan, setting the consequences in motion, I still believe I did the right thing. Not perfectly, perhaps, but rightly. There's power in refusing to be a victim of someone else's choices, in taking control of your own story. The for sale sign that greeted Katie that day represented more than just the sale of a house. It was a declaration that I valued myself enough to walk away from someone who didn't value me. That's a lesson worth learning, however painful the teaching. 1 year later, I can honestly say I'm grateful. Not for the betrayal, but for the clarity it brought. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead us exactly where we need to go.